All right, it's 2 o'clock. If everyone could please take their seats. I have a correction, please stand. Let me introduce the captain of our hospital, Captain Freaks, if he would please lead us in an invocation and then followed by the pledge of allegiance. Captain Freaks.
Thank you, I think. There we go. Lord, we ask for your continued favor for our people. They are like our family. We especially think of our over 600 volunteers this month who serve our hospital and community in so many ways. Though they serve selflessly, what a happy people they are. Perhaps because they serve. Continue to give us the tools and the space and the people that we need to complete our calling. We ask for innovation and inspiration as we honor the memory of those who have served us so well. Give us peace, I pray, like the soft and beneficial rain this morning. Help us to remove contention and learn to be content. Help us to be civil and not surly. Let our goodwill and love be apparent for all to see. Amen.
The flag is over here. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Let me welcome everyone to the April meeting of the Sarasota County Public Hospital Board. I am Chairman Hudson, Chairman of the board, and if I can, just for everyone's benefit, I'll go around the room and introduce the members of the board. And those with Dallas up here, Bridget Chiarici is representative from our Central District. Victor Rohde represents the Northern District. Patricia Mariah represents the Southern District, along with Greg Carter, who represents the Southern District. I'm an at-large member. Brad Baker represents the Northern District. Sarah Lodge is an at-large member. No, correction, Central District. I apologize, I stopped second time today. And Sharon Peters is representative at-large. And is an immediate past chairman of the board. Rick Reiner is joining us, I believe, via Zoom. I don't see her on the, she may have a flight issue or whatever, but Rick's not with us. Also, at the table, introduced Dr. Jonathan Hoffberger, my new friend, sorry. Dr. Jim Fiorina, who has a new uniform on today. David Berender is the president of the hospital and CEO, and Carolyn Kalis is our legal officer, and Karen Marshall is the assistant to the board. So again, welcome here. If you're going to speak, you should have already by now filled out a yellow card. We'll talk about that later as the meeting goes on. But first, before we begin, I have to read a public comment. Any citizen desiring to address the hospital board should turn in a speaker card to the board secretary. Comments will be heard in the public comments section of the agenda. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. The chair may find it necessary to limit the time for comments in the interest of time. Vendors, suppliers, and other persons seeking hospital contracts awarded on a competitive basis are reminded that their ability to address the board may be restricted by the terms of the invitation for bid, request for proposal, or other purchasing criteria. Lastly, the board has established a terms adjustment review panel comprised of representatives of the board, the medical staff, administration, legal counsel to review and negotiate the settlement of claims. Accordingly, the board will not entertain comments or discuss or negotiate claims at this meeting. So, with that done, I would like to move to our agenda. and ask for an approval of the orders of the day. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Ms. Lodge, and second by Ms. Ricci. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say yes. Motion passed. Next item is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of March 20th. Those minutes were posted on the website in advance as well as distributed earlier. Are there any comments, corrections, or additions to the minutes? Motion by Mr. Baker, a second by Mr. Carter. Any discussion? Hearing none, the vote, all those in favor say yes. Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Next item is board reports. And we do not have any board reports for this afternoon. I'd like to invite David to introduce our Excel Award winner for March of 2023. And this is a special thing. This is what David will explain for those who haven't heard about the Excel.
Thanks, Graham. It's so I'm going to invite Carolyn Ron. Come on up. All right. So today, as we do each month, we have the honor of recognizing an employee of the month with our Excel employee. And so today we're going to honor Carolyn Ron, and she is selected by her peers. So all 9,000 of our staff get together and select who their favorite is. That's it. You'll take it. So it's nice back. That's okay. Okay. So I'm delighted to announce that our Excel Award winner March is Carolyn Braun, social worker, case manager 2, and integrated case manager. Carolyn has been an employee here since 1998. Her Excel nominations describe her as an integral part of a supportive care team who plays a key role in consults for patients and families facing serious and difficult medical conditions. She utilizes her counseling expertise on a daily basis with patients, loved ones, and team members caring for them. She spends countless hours with patients, providing a calming and steady presence for those going through life-changing or life-limiting events. She goes the extra mile to make sure that everyone has the help and communication they need to process the situation at hand and make decisions about their care. Carolyn's decades of experience at SMH and her expertise have been invaluable, facilitating discharges and referrals to post-acute providers, assisting with guardianship cases, and tracking down distant relatives for patients who have no living. Team members say Carolyn always puts her patients first and is dedicated to finding the most appropriate safety solutions. Carolyn, I'll just say on behalf of our hospital, our community, all our staff, anyone else that I can think of, okay, how much we appreciate you guys every day, what you do, what you bring to this organization, and most of all, when you help each of our patients. Thank you very much for everything. I'll apply for you. Okay, I'm going to make you come back with me. Okay. But here's for apply. It's our Excel Award. Excel recipients are employees who are models of excellence and consistently demonstrate the mission, vision, and values of our organization. They are superior performers that make an extra effort and the quality and care of our patients, families, and community. Hospital board and administrative staff of Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System recognizes you, Carolyn Braun, with the Excel Award for the month of March 2023. It's signed by myself, as President and CEO, and our board chair, Mr. Nelson. Thank you once again. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
If I can recognize Carolyn, Carolyn brought her father, Bud, who was sitting next to her. And Bud, I know that you're all probably proud. Thank you for being here to help celebrate Carolyn's achievement. All right, moving on to item number 6 on the agenda is the medical staff reports. And I'll turn the floor over to Dr. Theory.
I have nothing to report today.
the report. Turn the floor over to the Chief of Staff of the Sarasota campus, Dr. Hoffberger.
Mr. Chair, I would ask for a motion approving Sarasota Memorial Hospital, Sarasota, pediatric endocrinology, pediatric hematology oncology, pediatric infectious diseases, pediatric medical genetics, pediatric nephrology, pediatric urology, neurology, and neurosurgery, delineation of privileges, and the updated SMH Sarasota Medical Staff Organizational Manual. All as recommended by the SMH Sarasota Medical Executive Committee.
There's a second, Roy, motion that Ms. Moran. Any discussion or questions? You ready to vote? All of those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries.
That's all I have to report.
Thank you. And if we can, via Zoom, or WebEx, I'm not sure, have, Dr. Jefferson, who's the Chief of Staff of our Venice Hospital, if you would, please make your recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask for a motion approving Sarasota Memorial Hospital Venice otolaryngology and orthopedic delineation of privileges forms and the update to the SMH Venice Medical Staff Organizational Manual update, each as recommended by the SMH Venice Medical Executive Committee.
I have a motion by Ms. Mariah and Ms. Garrity, seconds. Any discussion, comments, questions? So when we're ready to vote, all those in favor say yes. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Jefferson. We'll go to item number 7 is the Secretary's report. Ms. Garrity, you need a microphone.
For Monday, May 15th, 9 to 10:30 is the Human Resources Committee, 10:30 to noon, Finance Committee, noon to 12:30, closed session for the hospital board meeting, 12:30 to 2, board lunch, issue and financial review, 2 to 4 is the board meeting.
Any questions for Madam Secretary? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Treasurer's report, Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of bad debts and charity care for the month ending March 31st, 2023 in the amount of $19,047,000.
There's a motion, there's a second. Second by Ms. Long. And that was a motion to charge off 19 million, how much?
$19,047,000.
47,000. Just want to make sure we heard that. Is there any discussion, questions? Hearing none, ready for a vote. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carries. If I could, before we invite Jeff Lindbacher up for our financial officer report, just remind the audience, and those who may be listening on YouTube, that the board meets in committee beginning early in the morning, and a lot of the discussion which the public is invited to attend occurs when we're considering these things. I don't want you to think that we just do this willy-nilly, but there's a lot of thought behind decisions that are made here at this meeting. So, Jeff, please give our report.
Sure, thank you, good afternoon. This report is for the first month, it's the first 6 month, pardon me, of the fiscal year, so ending March 2023. First slide shows in the rating agency format, total revenues, total operating revenues for the system, for the district. If you look on the left bar charts, the blue bar, $155,351,000 of operating revenues actual for the month of March versus the budget, the orange bar in the middle of $137,364,000 for the month. Moving to the set of bars on the right, fiscal year to date, the blue column there, $855,798,000 of actual operating revenues versus a budget of $752,911,000. The next page is expenses. So for the month, in the very first bar to the left, we had total expenses for the system through March of $145,376,000 versus a budget of $127,327,000. Set of bar charts to the right, the first bar, we had total expenses for the first 6 months of $804,678,000 versus the middle bar, the budget was $714,200,000 of expenses. The next page shows the resulting operating income for the system. For the month of March, we had $9,975,000. That's an operating margin of 6.4% versus a budget of $10,037,000 of operating income, which on a percentage basis is an operating margin of 7.3%. For the year to date, the blue bar on the right, $51,120,000 of operating income, which represents a 6.0% operating margin versus a budget of $38,711,000, which represents an operating margin of 5.1%. Moving to statistics, these are statistics and extra pages for the hospitals. We have an average daily occupancy on the bar all the way to the left of 887 patients on a daily basis versus a budget in the middle bar of 745. That for the Sarasota campus, the box down to the left was an actual length of stay on an acute basis of 4.74, and for Venice, we had an actual length of stay of 3.93 year to date. The set of bars to the right represents admissions and observation cases for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. So our actual was 37,009, 37,009 versus a total on the budget of 32,029. The next page represents surgery cases and births. So on the left is surgery cases. And through the first 6 months, we had 15,806 surgery cases versus a budget of 14,304. You'll see births to the right, the first set of bars for the births, 2,154 actual versus a budget of 2,218 births. The next page is registrations for the hospitals. On the left side, we have outpatient registrations. For the first 6 months, we had 298,037 outpatient registrations versus a budget of 282,175 in the middle bar there. For emergency care registrations, we had an actual of 9,156 versus a budget of 75,043 registrations. And then finally, the last slide for our report shows case mix index for the hospitals. The set of bars all the way to the right shows our fiscal year-to-date case mix index. The blue bar here represents the case mix index for Sarasota for all patients of 1.82. The orange bar next to it to the right is Medicare only case mix index, that's 1.88. For the Venice campus, our case mix index for all patients is 1.58 versus the Medicare only case mix index of 1.6. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Any questions for Jeff? If none, we'll move on. We'll do the committee reports. Mission and Plan Committee, Mr. Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Mission and Planning Committee met this morning there was one update on the agenda for the board. The update was on post-acute care and rehabilitation services at Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System. Maria DiCarlo, Vice President, Post-Acute and Rehabilitation Services, began her presentation explaining the continuum of post-acute care and rehabilitation services from an inpatient to an outpatient setting. Then she reviewed the services offered by SMH, which include patient rehabilitation, skilled nursing, home health, and outpatient rehabilitation. U.S. News and World Report recently awarded SMH the best rehab hospital, #1 in Florida and number 35 in the United States. SMH continues to evaluate options for additional growth and expansion opportunities within to meet the community's post-acute care and rehabilitation needs. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for Greg? Moving to our next item in the committee reports, the policy committee, Vice Chair.
The Policy Committee met this morning. This committee made up of the full board and members of the medical staff meets in closed session to review quality and patient safety data and plans. Because it is a closed session, I have no other report.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the president's report. That we have before.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to start, as I do each month, with looking at our organizational report card. And we have 5 areas of concentration there on the left-hand side of the page, our goal in the middle, and then finally our score ranking on the far right. The first area of concentration is site of service, and we measure our likelihood of recommending. And we have a goal of having 8 out of 10 of our areas that we service be at or greater than the 75th percentile. I'm happy to report that we are getting 10 out of 10 for this year to date, for the first 6 months of the year. And I'll show you the details on that here in a minute. In the second area of concentration is our people area. We have our goal of having a new hire retention of our percentage of our regular and full-time employees that have been hired there in the FY 2023 year that are still employed as of September 30th, 2023. We have a goal of having that be an 85% higher. I'm happy to report we are trending higher in that as well at 90%, 90.7%. In the quality area, we have ours is an infection prevention quality goal, which is our combined overall standardized infection rate. We set our goal to be at less than 0.8. Happy to report we are exceeding that at 0.67. Just to let the board and the public know, the average or the expected number is 1.0, so we're already setting a goal much less than the natural average or expected. The fourth area of concentration is that of finance. You just heard our CFO, Dick Flembacher, give a report on that. Our goal is to have our operating margin be at 5% or higher. We are trending a little bit higher than at this point at 5.5%. And then finally, in the last area of concentration is epic growth. We have 2 goals there, one being our inpatient admissions and observation outpatients. Our goal is to have 61,950 for the year. We are trending higher than that, 71,582. On the outpatient registration side, we have our goal of having 1.3 million outpatient registrations, and we are also trending higher than 372. So the next slide is the detail of our patient experience report card. Just to orient you, the 10 areas that we focus on are on the left-hand side. The middle column, the white column numbers, is our actual FY 2023 score. Next column over is the national median score, and then finally on the right-hand side is the 75th percentile score, which is what we compare ourselves to. As I said, we are hitting 10 out of 10 on these. Just want to thank everybody that has so much work into that in our staff, because it translates down into our patients. Next, we have celebrating our staff's outstanding service. Last week, Sarasota Memorial held its annual service anniversary celebration, honoring the dedication and contributions of more than 700 employees working 5 to 45 years of service with the organization. And our special gratitude goes to this year's longest serving celebrants, and I have one of them in the audience today. So, Barbara Pittenger, can you please stand and do a wave? For 45 years plus. He started in his career. He's been working hard ever since. Nobody knows this except myself right now, but I figured we'd ask Barbara to come down and, she was, texting back and forth right after the meeting, because she was taking care of an emergent patient issue and wasn't sure she could rush down here. So Barbara, thank you so much for taking time to come down and let us thank you all first. Appreciate it. Are you watching this? You want to watch a video real quick? You have 60 seconds? Yeah. Okay. All right. Karen, you know what this is?
Every year, the hospital recognizes employees for their longevity of service.
Honored and thrilled to see all here. It's wonderful.
These people that have been here for 30, 35, 40 years have truly seen an amazing transformation. We don't think we've seen that in just the last 10 years, but they have seen it go from a small little country hospital to a world renowned organization. They were here before the modern technologies were here, and they ushered in that, and they embraced those things, and they brought this technology and those services to this community. And this community is grateful for that. The entire organization is better because of what they have done, contributing.
You're welcome to stay, and you're welcome to save lives, whichever. Thank you very much. Speaking of first, right? Just gonna let that play out for a second. She did not make that back well. You never know.
I have to say for the audience that they do not know whenever a child is born in the hospital. Brahms' Lullaby is played all across the state. Really neat tradition.
I think that's about the selling point today. So it's just gonna be reminded. And then just to keep going on that, Mr. Hudson, we hear it back to back. That means there's twins, and sometimes they're here through. And so it was kind of neat. All right, recognizing our outstanding physicians. Sarasota Memorial joined the nation and celebrated Doctors' Day on March 30th, thanking our physicians for the exceptional care they provide. Our doctors also played a key role in Sarasota Memorial's numerous national honors, including the continuous 5-star rating from the federal government for quality and safety. As a special thank you, we ran the ads to the left in the local papers as well as messages on our digital signs on our campus and social media. So Dr. Hoffberger, please thank all of you that you touch every day. Appreciate it.
Sure.
SMH Research Institute collaborates with USF on breast cancer study. The Sarasota Memorial Research Institute is working with the University of South Florida College of Nursing on a study aimed at improving outcomes for breast cancer survivors with neuropathy. This clinical trial, led by SMH's principal investigator, Maria Morana, tests the effects of a home-based 16 weeks exercise program to address persistent neuropathy and 312 patients treated for invasive breast cancer. Maria is in her 3rd year of her PhD in nursing science program at the University of South Florida. She was one of 5 students to attend the research methods
and supportive oncology workshops for early career scholars held by the Harvard Medical School for College Care. So thank you very much, Marie. Less invasive laser treatment options now available at SMH Thyroid and Parathyroid Center. Sarasota Memorial is now offering a full range of minimally invasive ablative therapies to treat thyroid nodules. Even if benign, thyroid nodules can impact a patient's quality of life, causing swelling in the neck, difficulty or pain when swallowing, and trouble breathing. Ablative technologies can reduce or shrink these nodules. The multidisciplinary team of endocrinologists, interventional radiologists, and surgeons at SMH's Thyroid and Parathyroid Center reviews each patient's case to determine the best treatment option based on the type of nodule, location, and size. The center is led by world-renowned thyroid and parathyroid surgeon, Dr. Ralph Define, who serves as our medical director of head and neck and endocrine surgery at SMH. National Volunteer Week is April 16th through 22nd. Sarasota Memorial appreciates our incredible volunteers every day of the year, but during National Volunteer Week is especially pleased to recognize incredible contributions to these dedicated community members. Last year, we had 854 volunteers donating almost $133,000. The SMH Volunteer Service Department supports SMH Sarasota and SMH Venice, as well as many of our outpatient centers. So special thank you to all those who do. Our physician lecture series continue. We have many good lectures coming out. These are free to the public. We do ask you to just go online and take a look at the schedules, and sometimes we do ask you to RSVP just when we get ahead now. But we certainly welcome you all to come and learn about different things going on in the healthcare system. And our podcast episode is nerve shortage. In the latest podcast episode, program coordinator Lee Robinson discusses how amid a nationwide shortage of healthcare workers, Sarasota Memorial is utilizing its nurse residency program to help with recruitment and retention of nurses and to enhance their professional development. And I would just encourage anyone in the public or even employees here, just go online and watch these podcasts or listen to these podcasts. I think they're extremely well done and informed. And Mr. Chair, that is my report. It's been possible.
Any questions for David or board? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, but we did not use the consent agenda today. So we'll move to number 13, is public comments. And I may again extend a warm welcome to the citizens who come forward would like to speak before the board. We've done this several times now, so if you'll be with me, I would just ask that y'all adhere to our guidelines. In fact, I just shared that with you. Only those who have presented a yellow speaker card in advance will be recognized to address the board. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes. Comments about the public comments section of the agenda can also be addressed. Number 3, personal attacks, abusive language, or profanity of any kind will not be tolerated. No person attending the board meeting is to harass, annoy, or otherwise disturb any other person in the room. Number 5, clapping, whistling, heckling, gesturing, loud conversations, or other disruptive behavior is prohibited. If you like what someone said, just raise your hands, just like that. That's where a lot of the public meetings work in. All electronic devices, including cell phones, pagers, need to be turned off or silenced. And while participants may leave and re-enter the room, if your name is called and you're not here, we cannot guarantee you that we will hold your space over to the bottom of the list. So, any member of the public whose behavior is disruptive or violates these guidelines is subject to removal from the board meeting or such other action as appropriate. I think we've got maybe 13 speakers today, and one of the citizens came up to me last month after the meeting and asked that with our new time set up that I don't need to interrupt you at the 1 minute. So I will not be given the 1 minute notice if you will just make sure you check out your time on the screen up here. So we'll begin. First is, again, bear with me on some of the names. Rosalie Goldberg will be followed by Melissa McConaughey, followed by John Capel. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm here today.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, one last thing. And we do ask the speaker identify himself by name and also where you live.
I'm Rosalie Goldberg. I live in Sarasota.
Thank you.
I'm here today to personally thank and commend Sarasota Memorial Hospital and its doctors and nurses and support staff for the excellent and expert professional care that I received when I arrived at the ER at 6 a.m. on February 9 with severe abdominal pain. Diagnostic tests quickly confirmed that I had a partial intestinal blockage. It's a condition I've had before, unfortunately, so I knew that more aggressive treatment would be necessary, and I was praying that I could avoid surgery. While waiting to be admitted to the hospital, the ER doctor prescribed Zofran for my nausea and Dilaudid for my pain, and I felt much better while waiting to be admitted, and it was a long wait. Now, this medication was also familiar to me. It is specifically approved and designed for that condition and those symptoms. And this point is very important to me because while I never attended a previous SMH board meeting, I understand that a number of previous speakers at these meetings complained bitterly about not being given medication that was unapproved for their condition. And while obviously everyone has the right to his or her opinion, that doesn't make any sense to me. In fact, I would have been very upset, perhaps even outraged, if a doctor at SMH had prescribed a drug for me that wasn't approved for an intestinal blockage, but for something else, regardless of who had recommended it, even if the recommending person were a medical person. That would have been a betrayal of my trust, like rolling the dice, like gambling with my health and my life. Since this unapproved drug could have made my condition worse or even provoked a secondary illness for me. I've always believed in giving credit where credit is due, and that is why I came here today to express my gratitude to SMH and its staff for its expertise and professionalism, and for taking such good care of me. I left the hospital on the 11th with the blockage resolved, and thankfully, I did not have to have surgery this time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Gilmore. Next is Melissa McConaughey, followed by John Capel, followed by Cameron Michaels. Welcome back, Ms. Capel.
Thank you. Board members, this woman that had a great experience, it was kind of like she was asked to come because she was talking about how she was supposed to be first to speak. So I wonder if she was asked to come to give you guys a good name.
Now, let me just address that. Melissa, Ms. Goldberg had signed up earlier and asked to leave early, then asked to retire. She's picking up the range.
Okay, well, that's in line.
I will let your time start. Please identify yourself and where you live.
Okay, I'll wait for my time. I'm Melissa McConaughey and I live in Sarasota.
Perfect.
All right. Attorney Michael Bravada states in an article that Sarasota Memorial Hospital has a license to kill. That's because SMH has been granted sovereign immunity from the medical malpractice. No matter what happens to an SMH, no medical malpractice attorney can take your case because of the protections given to this organization.
That's why Sarasota Memorial is so scared of an outside investigation of its COVID response, where families were shut out of the hospital while their loved ones died. The taxpayers who paid for this hospital and its CEO's multi-million-dollar contract have been calling repeatedly for an outside investigation. Yet SMH gives an internal investigation. I mean, sham cover-up. This so-called internal investigation was performed by a firm named Premier Inc. Right from their own website, it states Premier has a long history of joining forces with the Department of Health and Human Services. Let's think about this. The government incentivizes SMH to push remdesivir in ventilators. SMH then picks a company who is in bed with the government to investigate the results. Do we really think that Premier Inc. is going to bite the hand that feeds it? If we were to pick out just a few serious problems with this report, number one, there are questions about the validity of your PCR testing. According to an insider with a PhD and a creator of PCR tests, he states that SMH thermocycles were rated at an unusually high rate, greater than 60. Normally, anything greater than 21 would cause a false positive. This leads to the test being positive for COVID, even if a patient really does not have COVID. Therefore, if SMH's touting of 24% better mortality rate than 13 other surrounding hospitals does not hold much weight. Let's continue to expose this flawed report. On page 19 of your internal report, the safety of remdesivir is discussed. You list 5 articles that were used to draw a conclusion listed in your report. 3 of those 5 articles are from the New England Journal of Medicine. The first conclusion on remdesivir listed on page 19 states that remdesivir is well tolerated overall, no safety concerns found. I direct you to the remdesivir article number 3 listed on your own appendix C. This article dated June 11, 2020 shows 60% of the patients had adverse events and 23% had serious adverse events, including multiple organ dysfunction, syndrome, septic shock, acute kidney injury, and hypertension. Why did you leave that bombshell out of this report? Number 3, let's continue with the SMH internal report, which states doctors were allowed to prescribe hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin without any roadblocks. If this is the case, then why do we have doctor testimony stating otherwise? Why do we have emails telling doctors they can't prescribe this? I would call that a roadblock, Mr. Baker, one of possible intimidation. Why are pharmacists at this hospital refusing to fill these drugs? Why does the sport not answer emails? SMH alleges Dr. Gavante was put in restraint because he hit someone, yet it's not in the notes. As a nurse, for the record, we all know legally that if it's not in the chart, it didn't happen. How is the public to fulfill a FOIA request? According to State Statute 119, it is your duty.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Next is Aaron Capel, followed by Cameron Hodgins, followed by Stephen DeFonte.
The public rejects the report and requests a third-party
Please,
investigation.
be seated.
Thank you. Excuse me.
You can identify yourself.
I'm John Coupel, I live in Sarasota. And thank you, Tram, for welcoming me when I first came. I want to start out by thanking Dr. Hoffberger because we shared last meeting how he was supportive and helped a patient who was performing heart surgery with to get a unvaccinated blood backup. And considering from his and other people's original stance and transformation that I see that he went through, I want to thank him and commend him for that. Also, after the last meeting, he came up to speak with several other medical freedom advocates, and that kind of attitude of mutual respect is very beneficial to everyone. All we want is for the board to understand that there are other scientific and medical viewpoints with incredible credibility that I've talked about before. So thank you, Dr. Hock. My comments today refer to hospital protocols related to the pandemic. SMH continues to use protocols that end up killing people, such as remdesivir and ventilators, both of which are known to kill at a high rate. 52% to be exact of the first study on remdesivir. A study published in the Lancet Journal Clinical Benefit of the use of remdesivir. The U.S. government pays hospitals a 20% upcharge for the entire hospital bill if they use remdesivir in patients. This hospital is interested in certain science for safe and effective medicines, such as ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, vitamin C. I wonder why. All these medicines and supplements have been approved by the FDA for off-use label as well. When the federal government is paying the hospital to use these protocols via the CARES Act, it seems as if you don't care about the results, which people die from. Rewriting the hospital review, which bolsters your claim of services, is entirely inaccurate. Why? It's like saying the Dachau concentration camp in Nazi Germany had less deaths than the Auschwitz concentration camp. Now, I'm not saying this is necessarily a concentration camp, but many people ended up being killed at those places. An independent study should be done. As the previous speaker pointed out, it was biased, and we get a fair evaluation of that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Cameron Hodgins, followed by Stephen DeFonte, followed by Sean Bartlett.
Good afternoon, Chair Hudson and Mr. Verinder and board members. Good to see you today. My name is Cameron Hodgins. I live in the 34243 zip code, which technically is Manatee County, although my address is Sarasota. I have used Sarasota Memorial Hospital services my entire life. Yes, my entire life. I was born in these walls, and thinking about Barbara and her 45th anniversary here, maybe she was here when I was born. Any experience that I personally have had here or any of my family members have had here have been just beyond excellent. And I want to thank you, the board and the staff and the physicians and all the services that occur within these walls, within your outpatient clinics, within your walk-in clinics. Just a few examples. About 10 years ago, a woman who was very near and dear to my family, my grandmother, was passing away and in palliative care here. And the nurses called me every few hours to let me know her status. I was able to be by her side when she passed away. In 2015, I gave birth to my daughter, my one and only child, as advanced maternal age. And the nurses and the staff, Mrs. Spikett and her team, could not have been more outstanding in that whole process. I suffered with postpartum depression, and the follow-up phone calls and the attention that the staff gave and actually knew before I did where I was with my behavioral health. I will never forget that experience and how compassionate and supportive the entire team was here. Last September, my father had a full knee replacement within the doors here and had a wonderful experience, as did our family, with compassionate, communicative care by all staff. And then in December, I personally had a health scare and thought I was having a cardiac event. And the emergency room physician and the team there were tremendous in communication. I particularly enjoyed the individuals who rolled my bed into other lab services and the stress that they took away from that experience and the humor that they shared with me during that stressful time. But I think the most important story I have has to do with my brother, who's actually older than me, a couple years older. He has Down syndrome and autism and is nonverbal. A few years ago, he had a GI scare, and of course, we came here to the ER. And many physicians, many staff, many individuals in healthcare do not have a lot of training in serving individuals with special needs. And my father was with him in the room, which was a lovely grace that the staff allowed. And one of the nurses, as he was struggling, said, "What's his favorite music?" And my father responded, "Well, it's Jimmy Buffett." And before long, Jimmy Buffett was playing over the speakers, and it just completely relaxed him, and the staff was able to provide the services and the care that he needed. And for that, and particularly for that, I will be forever grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cameron. Stephen DeFonte and Sean Bartlett, followed by Ruth Brandon.
I'm from Sarasota, Dr. Stephen DeFonte. I'm the doctor who was put in this patient's COVID ward in August of 21. And when my roommate declined, I began to act as his patient advocate at his request. I was put in solitary in 4-point restraints for hours until a kind doctor discharged me. Weeks later, my roommate died. Last year, after the board's election, Chairman Tran promised transparency to provide to the public's plea. He wanted to let SMH's in-house quality review committee provide. Here's an example of how transparency isn't being pursued. Doctors, not robotically following their enforced treatment protocol, treat patients individually based on training, experience, research, and patient outcome. In January, several SMH doctors said they were not treating based on an enforced protocol. Some of these doctors were on the quality review committee. But 2 months later, quality review spokesman said, no, we gave SMH doctors the treatment protocol to follow and posted that protocol on SMH's website. My case is another example of how transparency isn't being pursued. Last month, I pointed out the nurse who I, quote, tried to punch didn't document it. Sharon, Pat, Bridget, you know that if it's not documented, it didn't happen. That's a nursing maxim. You've been trained, you've been overtrained to do that. Heck, even your lawyer knows that. Last month, every doctor in this room confirmed this discrepancy was not standard of care. Yet, your in-house quality review committee reviewed my case twice and still failed to discover this discrepancy. I would expect the non-medical board members to recognize these inconsistencies. But you three, as nurses, surely you remember that maxim. If it isn't documented, it didn't happen. Even as, so please give my case an independent review. A third party independent review could bring changes that could save hundreds of lives and prevent tragedies like you have heard over the past months. I ask this board appoint a third party independent review committee for my case. Nurses, I hope one of you will move for a third party independent review of how Dr. Bufanti was treated at SMH. Tran promised transparency. Now is the time to deliver on that promise.
Thank you, Dr. Bufanti. Next is Sean Bartlett, followed by Ruth Brandwine, followed by Sherry Weinstein.
Hello, my name is Sean Bartlett, and I'm a Sarasota resident.
Thank you.
Following all health crises and epidemics, there have been significant improvements in healthcare systems that address the successes and the failures that occur, including, for instance, a different FDA approach on faster drug approvals and more. Hopefully, the worst experiences of the COVID pandemic can lead to similar improvements in healthcare by finding common ground. A central theme of the hospital's critics, especially during, looking back at the time of crisis when everyone was just trying to manage each second as it came, has been the use of remdesivir, ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine for patients hospitalized at SMH. The challenge is that the preponderance of research then and now show that remdesivir has been proven effective for hospitalized patients, but neither ivermectin nor hydroxychloroquine have been proven to be effective for COVID, despite thousands and thousands of patients tested. So what data do you look at and follow? While there are some studies that show different results, there are some issues with those studies, and they're in the minority. Of course, with all studies, there are issues. That said, it is always important to learn from mistakes that happen during a crisis. This hospital board has heard over and over and over and over again the criticism and concerns about their COVID protocols during that traumatic period. It's time to let it go. You still have work to do, but you have a lot of other work and issues to focus on as well. I won't sing the song. There are so many health issues that the board needs to address at this time in Sarasota. It's clear critics have been heard, and I'm sure that there are more studies to come that you will learn from. Let's move on.
Thank you. Next, Ruth Brandon, Sherry Weinstein, and followed by Christina Santawasso.
Can I start with that?
Please start. Give us a second.
My name is Ruth Brandwine.
Okay, start, please.
My partner and I have been in Sarasota for a number of years. I've been here for 13 years. And unfortunately, we've had so much experience in the hospital. We laughingly say they spilled the wing with our name. However, the experiences we have really been exceedingly positive. I was first brought into the emergency room because I was fasting during the holiday and I was severely dehydrated. I didn't realize it. And I was in the hospital, in the emergency room overnight. I got a lot of care. I must say, the doctor, the hospitalist was very positive. He explained everything, what the situation was, what I had to do, and so on. And that was a positive experience. About a year or two later, I had, my heartbeat was really high, and I was scared. 1 o'clock in the morning, the doctor brought me to the hospital. I had more than one drink in the evening, and it was too much for me. So again, they explained what the situation was, and what I needed to do to avoid problems in the future. Now, my partner then had a severe issue. We thought it was his heart because he has a heart condition. It turned out to be a stroke. The neurosurgeon, after the cardiologist came and found it wasn't, the neurosurgeon found what it was, and he eventually went into the rehab unit, which was fantastic. It was just an amazing, positive experience. They even took him down to Hortons and back to show them how to navigate around people. He had another experience with his heart valve replacement, again, difficult but positive experience. We live in a community with many, many elderly people. I guess we're considered elderly too. And everyone that I know has had a positive experience. A friend of mine was in rehab for 2 weeks. People are so grateful. Elderly people are so grateful that we have such a great hospital within a half an hour, 20-minute drive. So thank you for all that you do, and more power to you.
Thank you, Rick Grant. Next is Dr. Sherry Weinstein, followed by Christina Santawasso, followed by Olga Hamlin.
Sorry, somebody taking 5 board meetings to get my name back. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Start at 5.
Thank you. So I am Dr. Sherry Weinstein, and I've been on SMH staff for over 22 years. I've served on various boards, including the QI board, the nutrition board, blood usage committee, and others. Over 10 years ago, I was nominated as chief of staff elect and didn't accept that responsibility since I was building my successful concierge practice at the time. So I have been recognized for my clinical acumen by American College of Physicians. I am a member of the Omicron Delta Kappa National Honor Society and have been recognized years going on for as America's top physicians. I'm currently a member of the Florida Medical Association Freedom Caucus, the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons, the U.S. Medical Association, and the Global COVID Summit. All of these organizations with tens of thousands of doctors support the information that I have presented in these board meetings and that I have given outside the board meetings to the board members, because 3 minutes is not enough time to give all of the peer-reviewed journal articles that have been true over the past 2 to 3 years. My point is, I'm not a fringe doctor. Okay?
I represent many doctors in the community that are too afraid to come forward because they don't have a fear of retribution. And I understand that, and I appreciate your continued response and support for me. I found the hospital committee internal report I have been in for several reasons. It told me how many millions of dollars the hospital made for using the newer experimental medications instead of already FDA approved and safe medications. It told me that we only allowed 1% of our positive COVID patients to get iodine, and they had to prepay before they were given it. I also found out that our CEO, Mr. David Berenger, chaired the Safety Net Hospital Alliance of Florida's Board of Directors in 2021 and 2022, serving on the policy committee, which suggested he was partially responsible for some of our COVID hospital policies. The community has asked for an independent review of the SMH hospital policies and performance during COVID. I humbly ask you that you grant the community what it's asked for. If we have done as well as the report says, then nothing is going to be found out and we've got everything to gain. If, however, it's not true, we find that we have problems, we will be able to unveil those problems and we can move forward to provide better patient care, and that should be everyone's first and foremost concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weinstein. Next is Christina Santuato, followed by Olga Hancom, followed by Lindsay Garish. Christina.
Hi, my name is Christina Santuato. I'm from the Homeless. Just want to come and say that I did take off work early to be here. So in November, I went to one of your urgent care facilities. In January, I received an invoice from the urgent care stating that I owed $790. I called the urgent care billing department and spoke with the agent. He said that was a mistake, I assumed, because my returns were accepted. I was told a new statement would be sent to me. A few days later, I received a statement for $500. I saw my insurance paid $295, and I was responsible for the other $500. I then called your billing department. They informed me that my insurance paid for their portion, and I need to pay my deductible. My deductible for an urgent care is $80. I was then told that I was billed as a 131 outpatient hospital visit. I did not go to your hospital. I went to an urgent care. I was then told that because the hospital owns the urgent care, they can bill it as such. I needed to call my insurance company and fight with them. So I called my insurance company, explained the whole situation, went through the whole thing, read everything on my bill, my prescription on my bill, very clearly stated, procedure at urgent care. They said, sorry, they billed it as 131, you're responsible for that. So I wasn't getting word of that. I emailed Karen, who's your board secretary. She then forwarded my information to the head of your customer service. That person sent me a letter to speak with me and basically said, too bad, so sad, we own it, we're the hospital, so we're gonna charge you that $500. I've spoken with two different attorneys, both of which have said that what is happening is a clear violation of the Federal Trade Commission Act under Section 5, unfair or deceptive acts or practices. It clearly states an act or practice is deceptive where a representation, omission, or practice leads or is likely to mislead the consumer. You are misleading your consumers. You advertise your urgent cares as urgent cares. The website says smhurgentcare.com. Your billboards say urgent care. One of the most entertaining things that came out of this is my first invoice says services at an urgent care. Ever since the back and forth, it now says procedure at Sarasota Memorial Hospital. Again, I have never been in this hospital before today. What you're doing, I'm sorry, is unethical and it's deceptive. So I went on Google, I found other people that have had the exact same thing happen to me. I have their names. Then I started a Facebook forum and I now have people there too. I do not want to escalate this further. I would like one of you to speak with me after this so that we can resolve this. And this has to stop. You are a tax-paying hospital. You need to work for the people instead of, charging them unethically.
Yeah, Christine, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I suggest that Jeff Limbacher, he could meet with you in the conference room right outside here in Chaplin's area. And I would, Jeff is the CFO, he's in charge of the money. If you would please meet with him, I'll be glad to meet with you afterwards if you're not satisfied.
I would love that, and I wish that I didn't have to go early to get this to happen.
Okay. Would you like to get, there's a conference room right next door. Yeah. Thank you. Next is Olga Anton. I may have that wrong. Thank you, Mr. Morgan, for going there. I should have thought of you first. Olga's first, Lindsay Garrett, I had that wrong, and Laura Hart.
Hi, my name is Olga and I live in Sarasota City. I am part of the public and I do not reject your study. Let's stress that. I've been treated multiple times at the hospital. And each time I'm grateful for the services that I received. So thank you.
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Did you hear that?
No, you were great.
I want to state, as I did last month, regarding policy protocol, reviews, etc. Nothing scares me more than treating a pandemic with anecdotes. To me, that is extremely scary. And anything that is not science-based, repeatable, over time, and peer reviewed in terms of the treatment to me is inadequate. So please continue to use peer reviewed, science-based treatments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lindsay Garrett, followed by Laura Hart. If there's anyone else who would like to speak, you need to submit a yellow card. Did I get your name right?
It's actually Brick.
Thank you. Okay, I apologize, but well.
My name is Lucy Brick. I live in Barton.
Let's start with yeah.
Invited here by Dr. Bumonti to testify on his behalf. I am a nurse practitioner with over 9 years of RN experience and 5 years of NP experience. I came here on behalf of Dr. Bumonti because if I was in his shoes, I would want someone to stand up for me. That is literally like the biggest percentage we have in this country right now as far as issues go, is that nobody wants to stand up for someone next to them because they're afraid of getting their own hand chopped off. Even like it was mentioned previously, there are many physicians who will not come and testify because they're terrified of what happened to like Dr. Littell or Appel getting his medical license for no good reason whatsoever. So I digress. So I'm asking the board to encourage them to imagine in their COVID protocol if it was their family member who this happened to. Right? Because we all know, sorry, your families get VIP status. The rest of us do not. And as somebody who went through the hospital system during COVID due to cancer, it was not enjoyable, even as a provider who knows how to advocate for themselves. So we have to be careful about the rhetoric, including let it go, because it's not time to let it go. As somebody who's a 4th generation Holocaust survivor, guess what? They're coming for you guys next. This is just the beginning of the tip of the iceberg. So I'm imploring you, please have an outside investigation. There's nothing to hide, right? There should be no concerns whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Laura Hart. And that's the last speaker card I have, unless someone else wants to speak. Give everybody an opportunity. Ms. Hartman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. My name is Laura Hartman. I live in Englewood, Florida. My father receives community care through Veterans Affairs Hospital here at this location. That being said, I'm also his patient advocate. He is currently on a fail-safe surgery list. Fail-safe. That means this cancer institute currently has 20 patients in front of my father who cannot get the medication they need to save their lives. So again, my father is scheduled for fail-safe surgery here at Sarasota Memorial Hospital because of the national shortage of medication. What are you doing about that? What can be done about this? Why do I go home and watch my father die? Why do I go home and wait other people, 20 other families that receive care at this hospital, go home and watch their loved ones die because we can't get the medication?
This week, currently, I met with Congressman Greg Stubbe, who's working on a bill to currently address this. Today, the governor said Disney can't govern themselves. Again, when a hospital's doing its own internal investigation, and then there's medication out there that can prevent cancers that's not being looked into, not being researched, my father doesn't currently have access to, I am concerned. Literally, I'm just shaking because the understanding that where do we go from here? I go home and I wait 26 more days until May 11th, where he has another surgery to go in to see how fast his cancer is growing. Because he spontaneously and randomly got cancer. Yes, we're working with the VA, not understanding why he started making blood clots and where all these clots in his body spontaneously came from. That's not the issue right now. The issue is I go home and I watch my mother die. And we're standing in a fucking we're standing in a taxpayer. I said sorry, I acknowledge what I said. This is a taxpayer-funded hospital. So if I'm only one voice, and there's 20,000 other voices behind me that aren't here, that can't come here, that aren't full-time caregivers for the family as well. I need breath right now.
That's all right. Have you had a chance to visit with the staff at the Cancer Institute?
I am not.
I would be glad to introduce Dr. Richard Brown, who's head of the Institute. Volunteer him to visit with you after this meeting, and perhaps we can get some resolution on your case.
Thank you.
Sorry to hear about your problem. I hope that the.
And when I asked the nurse, she literally said there's 20 other people in front of her waiting for the same patient.
I understand. We really can't discuss patient issues here, but I'm making that offer from Dr. Brown, if you would please visit with her after the meeting. I appreciate it. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. Hearing none, then the public comments are closed. So, Patricia, you got a comment?
Certainly. They're always.
Patricia, they're always.
Sorry.
She asked if there are shortages of drugs. Of course, there are shortages of drugs nationally and internationally. I don't know what drug that is or anything else. I wouldn't know if she said it to me. But Sarasota Memorial is not the reason there's a shortage of drugs in the issue. But certainly there are a lot of shortages of medications around the country.
So, any other comments from board members regarding things that we've heard or comments? Ready? Be sure to speak the standing.
Well, it sounds like a third investigation means it's warranted, so I motion for open investigation.
Second.
Into the code. I would like more specifics.
Well, we have a motion, I think you're asking for another investigation.
Yeah, I
There's a
mean,
second.
you this is what we've been going on and on about, so,
I would like a specific motion to what you're asking for the staff and for your board to do.
okay. I motion for us to have an open investigation or an outside investigation into our COVID protocols from our report that we just laid out as an interim review. That's an emotion. Is it fair enough?
Motion.
Pardon?
Are you amending your motion?
I guess.
Dick, are you seconding? Okay, so we now have a motion to have another investigation without saying any discussion. Hearing no discussion. Motion on the floor is to have another investigation that would specifically look at these cases.
How would that happen?
Say again.
How does that happen?
I
Start taking a vote, so it's like a vote to discuss.
It's discussion is open now.
Discussions, okay, so if it was approved, who does the investigation and proceed?
My guess is hearing no discussion, that it would probably fail. Motion would probably fail. So, I mean, any discussion. I don't know how else to answer your question. Rephrase.
I think your question is to bridge it to what she's actually proposing, which is part of the discussion.
Yeah. So, if we do have a vote on this, questionable roll call.
Sure, no problem. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I assume the board is prepared to vote on this. Will be a roll call vote. Mr. Peters,
Opposed.
Ms. Pierucci,
Report.
Ms. Lodge, Mr. Rohit, Ms. Baker, Ms. Mariah,
I know how we have, what's the procedure, where's the go? What's basically a repeat of what we've done.
I'm not sure. I just heard the motion. Well,
I mean, how do you vote?
we're in the middle. Thank you. Yes.
I don't have what I need.
Unfortunately, members cannot abstain from voting unless there's a conflict of interest.
I don't have.
So that should refer to Mr. Carter and Chair Groves to know as well. Ms. Mariah, how would you vote?
If she needs to answer my question, they don't know how she would answer that. How would she know?
We gave her opportunity to discuss, and there was no discussion. I'm trying to be fair here.
Yes.
Use the microphone.
Because I'm not getting, I mean.
Use
she's
the
asking-
microphone.
So you want me to ask Bridget?
Well, let's suspend it until I can Bridget expand on how she would conduct this investigation.
The chance that it's gonna help.
Yeah.
Rules
Okay,
closed.
so here's,
Up a little bit. He doesn't know.
I was just gonna say, Bridget, would you like to explain exactly what you would like to have in this?
Investigation and have an independent investigation, be able to pick, a couple of positions that are within our institution. Just like some of what they do in peer review, and it would be people who are not affiliated with our hospital, and, have them go through our data and, have an outside independent review, but that seems to be the theme here, and this is what the people want, so I don't think that's gonna go away, so I'll motion for it.
Patty, is that enough to make your vote?
Who does it? Who thinks, who's gonna pick this?
You didn't speak into the microphone, so.
Who's going to pick, who's going to designate which organization reviews or goes over everything? We just make an informed decision, that's what I'm trying to do. So who's gonna pick that? Who does that?
I would hope that.
Use the microphone.
Who doesn't like repeating what we've done?
Yes.
Bridget spoke, Patty, it's after you did. If you have full. Yeah. Okay. Is there any further,
She's never done before. She's never done this
please speak in the microphone so
before.
people.
Bridget has never done this before.
And we can offer a motion.
Okay, so is that kind of like, just because she didn't know exactly how to ask her what she was asking for, we're not gonna give her any explanation as to how she would do that? I don't know.
Well,
Bringing a motion to the table, you need to be prepared for specifics of that, which is why I specified. What is the cost? Who's gonna pay for that? Who are we gonna hire for this? How are we gonna produce this and not cost our hospital and staff time so we can actually run the hospital, which is incredibly important. So all of that needed to be researched before going to this motion, which is why I am an absolute no on this. Until you have an actual prepared motion.
Okay.
okay, so yes.
Mr. Chair, I think we actually have already completed the vote.
We need to finish.
I think we did. I think what I heard, tell me if you heard differently than I heard. I heard 6, 2, and 1 abstention.
You cannot have an extension on our board unless there's a conflict of interest. I don't think that is.
There's no legal way to abstain from voting.
Okay.
I want more information, so at this point, right now, until I have a look at how it's gonna be done, I'm gonna say no. Until I know how this moves forward, if it's gonna be a repeat, what we did, we're gonna go nowhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Patty votes no, fails 7-2. Anything else to come before the board? Absolutely not, it was, risk. 62. The motion failed. The motion to do another investigation failed. As I interpret that, there's no interest in the board's, majority of the board, to conduct another investigation. That what we conducted was thorough, was comprehensive, it was set out to the public. We, as a board, voted 7-2 to accept the report and voted to adopt the recommendations. I don't know how much more we can do. I don't detect any interest from the majority of the board to do another investigation. So that's kind of where we are. Use the microphone. Is there any?
Chairman, I was just to say, we've all heard the comments from the audience and really, I guess how it's emotionally affected everyone. And we appreciate that. And as a board, I would just hope that as we move past COVID, that we can use this experience to work within the system to find the best ways to improve the hospital. And so I'm wanting to dial this down and wanting to use our energy in a productive way so that we can continue to encourage good doctors to come to the hospital and in effect have the facility develop. So that's how I'm wanting to move forward. And I hear what you say, and I think it's valid, but I think now is the time to find the right way to work through the system to make the issues that you're concerned about work.
Any other comments from board members? Our next meeting will be on May the 15th in this room. Unless there's anything else, meeting is adjourned.